Welcome back. Our guest is Dr. Christian Wane, humanitarian entrepreneur, economist with decades of leadership experience in leadership development, peace building, and human capital training. He's president of the World International Economic Group and the global mission leader of the Divine Institute of Chaplaincy Corps International, where he has helped train over 20,000 leaders worldwide. Welcome to the show.
You're welcome. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's get to the first question. What do you see as the biggest structural gap holding Nigeria back in terms of leadership, systems, or human capital? What do you think is the biggest structural problem?
The biggest structural gap is not finance. It's not finance, but then I think the inability to build human capital. The inability to build human capital, because the moment people are trained, it is said that wealth is knowledge, or knowledge is wealth. So the only sustainable wealth is when people have knowledge. So that gap is that Nigeria as a country left commercial schools, left most technical schools and all of that, which have been empowering people from the onset. People come out with skills, come out with skill development and all of that, so they don't depend just on government, on salaries and all of that. And this cares up the economy of every country. But when it is neglected, it's a very big gap.
Nice. I like how you addressed about you've trained over 1,000 young people, leaders globally. In fact, I'm sure the numbers exceed 1,000. How important is human capacity development in shaping a nation's future?
It's important in the sense that, like in my years of training people, community leaders, even elderly people who didn't have hope of studying again, train them and all of that. So it is important because when people are not trained, they are not raised. And when people are not raised, they can't represent, a country. If you look at some other countries around the world, US, South Africa, where you see medical doctors, doing the best, they are doing that because Nigeria is doing well in that area of training. In chaplaincy today across the world, DICCI Corps is a model organization from Nigeria, and it's the best platform, for chaplaincy, training humanitarians, peacekeepers, and all that. Why? Because it's an institute, not just a religious stuff like other chaplaincy. It's an institute that trains, that ensures that people are trained, empowered, and deployed. So that is a necessity.
Okay, so if you had to highlight the major key shift or mindset shifts that Nigerians need right now to move from point A to point B, that is to drive real progress, what would it be?
It should be shifting Nigerian mindset from consumption to productivity, because every country that have ever scaled up in the economy and the GDP is all about production. If everybody produces, let's say for instance, farming. Everybody left farming. For who to farm? What holds up America, South Africa, most nations, is farming. And farming is about productivity. So if we can shift, the youths, back to productivity, and less of consumption, I think the country, will move forward.
Let's talk about how insecurity sort of destabilizes economic growth, because you worked in peace and conflict management. How does it, prevent economic growth, like what we're currently experiencing, in the country?
Repeat that question.
I said you worked in peace and conflict management. So how does insecurity affect the growth, economic growth and national development?
Yeah, as a developer also who have the privilege to bring humanitarian investments and all that to help Nigerian community in infrastructure and all of that, it scares investors away. It keeps investors, confident. So it makes investors not to trust the country, the community for investment. At least that is the area I also have invested time and given opportunity for Nigerians to. So it affects investment. And if investors are not coming and not investing, it affects the GDP of the country. So that's just that.
I was going to ask because, of course, you're working in the space of humanitarian, and of course, I'm hoping that some of these people you've trained are going to help in places in the north, because there's so much ravaging in the north. I'm just saying, abroad, when you have some of these peacekeeping missions, or when they help humanitarian people to just, I don't know what we're doing in that regard in terms of what is happening in the north, because it's really a big problem.
We do that not just in Nigeria. Most of
Nigeria
the people
is the one that is currently going through that. It's a really big problem here, you know. So I'm just
from French countries. Do you know what is happening in French countries?
Of course.
You know, war every day.
Yeah.
We've trained like
But the war we are
between our last
experiencing
2
here-
years, we've trained over 1,000 peacekeepers
Oh, okay.
in that aspect, and they're all in war front. And then Nigeria is not seen to be having war or real war.
We're
itself.
not seen to be having war. So
Yeah,
what is Boko
yeah.
Haram doing that is
The
killing our...
bullets are flying here and there and all of that. So this is where I think it's beyond war. There is no war. You can't say it's
It's
war.
not what, so what
No,
is it?
War is when a community, two systems agree to go into war. It is labeled war. And there is a law guiding war. We call it the law of war. So when that agreement is not constituted, it's not war.
So what you describe what we're facing in Nigeria? I'm just trying to understand, because we have people who come from Sahel countries, jihadists, Fulani people from other neighboring countries coming to Nigeria, and these are cross-border. So what do you describe what we're experiencing from your perspective?
The truth is this: every country has the ability and potentials to manage the economy, protect their people, and protect their economy. They have all it takes. You know, if you switch on the satellite camera, you can pick everybody from where they are coming. You can bring them down. You can get them arrested. You can build fiscal walls. If you want to protect a nation, you can protect your nation.
So it's man-made problem.
This is not demonic. It's not spiritual.
It's man-made.
Okay. Okay, enough said without being said, but enough has been said. Now let's talk about addressing the internal conflicts that we're having, because you mentioned, you made mention of economic, abundance and prosperity, what have you, that it needs to be addressed. And when we talk about addressing internal insecurity, it cuts across different things. She mentioned terrorism, banditry. How else do you think we can? Because people are voicing out, and economic stuff is just going down, it's dwindling. How else can we address the issue so that we can curb it and move to the next point of focus for development, if we are ready to move forward?
For the first solution is everybody to first of all become selfless.
All of us.
Nigerians are selfish, everybody. Even, see, a baby giving birth in Nigeria, I don't know about other places, the mother will give him akara, give me back. The child will refuse to give. So it has come to a system that we think more of ourselves. Humanitarian is all about, discipline yourself, inconvenience yourself, become selfless to see to the needs of others. And if everybody could think like that, I think that is beginning way forward. You see somebody having issues, Rose said, anywhere, don't think about tribal, forget about tribal sentiment and all of that, language, culture. Save a Nigerian, protect a Nigerian. Because there's no country without a Nigerian. I think that is the basis. And secondly, it's a time that everybody will learn the act of saving to invest. If you can't save from 100,000, you can't save from 100 billion. If you consume everything you earn, there won't be any platform or a better platform for you to begin to save. And if you can't save from the little, you can't invest. If you cannot invest, you don't multiply your resources, you don't scale up. And there's no how you will live from where you are and become richer and better without this principle. It's not possible.
Just to wrap up conversations, if you're looking at 3 priority areas that Nigeria needs to focus on, what would those be? Those 3 priority focus to ensure that we grow and become the world power country that we're supposed to be. What are the 3 priority focus areas that we need to, move us to prosperity?
I think all revolves around leadership. Leadership is an influence. And in leadership, there has to be a system built around our polity, where there will be transparency, where people will be held accountable. And Nigerians should digitize everything that has to do with every department of the government, digitize it. This is where you reduce crime, and this is where you move the country forward.
Already with the economy it is, and inflation hitting hard, I don't know how we're going to be able to deal with all of these challenges.
It begins from these steps.
But is the government even willing to do what they need to do? They just keep putting these figures out there. Or are they willing to put the work down or to do the work to ensure that Nigeria, because it's a really sorry case. Young people don't have jobs. There are no jobs anyway. Yes, we're talking about the digital economy. A lot of young people don't have jobs. There's poverty. People cannot feed and afford even one square meal. So there's a huge problem on ground. So I don't know how we're going to be able to solve this. It's a, I don't know, economic problem.
And that is the reason why the platform you have is a better platform, and more so increase their voice with that same platform. When nobody is talking, solution will not come. You know, how can they do it unless somebody is sent? How can somebody is sent unless somebody is ready? So when you create a platform like this, where people lend their voices, when you keep saying it, you know, one day, you know, I believe the universe will raise people who
also in your own
implement
capacity,
changes.
because you also are working, like you said, training young people too, and I'm sure that you're also helping with this capacity building and economic development.
Yeah, we do youth empowerment summits. Like I remember before this election came in 2022 to 2023, we did national town hall meeting. My NGO sponsored it. We planned it for 8 months. 4-point by national town hall meeting. We call it peacekeeping, you know, mission. And both Northern youth, the youth of the nation, everybody came. People heard their voice. Both the Northern youth was there in person. The national youth president was there in person, you know, and the royal fathers. He brought, go on, gave the, you know, opening speech. So brought them together so that people will know what insecurity is all about, how to resolve it. People lend their voices according to their region. It's a cross-regional meeting and all that.
We need more talks like this.
Insecurity solving begins from knowledge. People must have to be educated, you know, educated on how to be free from insecurity. So what you don't talk about, you are not free from. So when we keep saying it, result will show.
All right.
So that is the same way we have to take responsibility for ourselves at this point.
Everybody has to do the work.
Everybody,
like you said, stakeholders, consultative forums, everybody needs to come together.
Everybody,
to practically.
Everybody, cultural meeting, executive, market leader, they all came together. It was a massive meeting, over 300 leaders, you know, discussing from across the regions. You know how the problem, what is happening in your own region, you become their voice. So it was a collective voice.
Right. Some of this. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was really nice having you. Hopefully we will get to the bottom of these issues, and well done on the job you're doing with training people and helping in war-torn countries. So I know that Nigeria needs to also be part of that war-torn country, even though you say it's not defined as a war-torn country.
We have peacekeepers who are face aiders and all of that, who appears on every scene trying to comfort.
Because we have a lot of people in the IDP camps. So I'm just saying, and the IDP camps are overrunning with so many people who have been displaced from all these places in the north and don't have homes.
And when the situation is more than the human resource, now this is where you have the breakdown.
That's why we have international organizations that I know that support. We need a lot of this on ground, because already now they said 400, they're going to execute 400 women and children if the federal government does not drop 2 billion. So these are big issues that everybody needs to be alerted to. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It was nice having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Like we said, perhaps the future of Nigeria is not just in what we have, but in how we choose to build and how intentionally we build it.
Yes, so we know that potential means nothing but without structural leadership and action. So we have to take action today to make our country better.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we have more conversations. Don't go anywhere.